The Mississippi Economic Council, we're the state chamber of commerce. We represent businesses all across Mississippi, large, small, all different types of industry sectors, business sectors are part of this. We have over 1,100 members that are business members, and within those companies there's about 11,000 people that participate. Today we'll have about 1,000 to 1,200 people take part in our Capital Day events that are held both at the Jackson Marriott in the morning, here at the state capitol, then a reception for state officials and legislators and our members. Very excited about what's happened today. We've got to hear from the governor, the lieutenant governor, speaker, as well as legislative leaders and the Secretary of State talking about key issues. Workforce development. How do we create a skilled workforce, an educated workforce, to create the opportunities in Mississippi to really move our state forward? Focus on other things such as transportation infrastructure, job creation, all of the things from an educational standpoint that are going to make our state even better than we are today and create additional opportunities going forward. There are three keys that are our priorities, and while there are several other issues we'll be working on, number one, we want to continue to focus on the importance of preserving our transportation infrastructure in Mississippi. Look for ways to get dollars into the system today and ultimately provide a long-term sustainable source of revenue to address those issues. Secondly, we think it's very important that we have an education funding that's fair and balanced to all districts, that's focused on the student, pays attention to career technical development so that we're not only preparing students for college, but preparing students for the jobs that exist today in the technical, career technical realm, making sure both of those areas are very much part of the equation and part of the discussion. And then finally, how do we get some scholarship dollars for those career tech jobs for people to get the training they need to be successful and be available to go to work in Mississippi today?
I think there are a lot of successes. One is, for example, the Tech Master program that MEC started 4 years ago, where we've already had 3,000 graduates. We're in 83 school districts where we're teaching people some basic life skills, technical skills, and soft skills so that they can be successful when they get out in the workforce. So we're doing some things right. We're doing a lot of things right, but I think we have room for improvement in consolidating and streamlining some of these efforts so that it's a little clearer to our businesses and to our people as to where they can go and what they can do to improve those skills.
Mississippi's wins in economic development this past year in 2017, over 75% of our successes, our wins, came from business and industry that's already here, existing business and industry. So the Mississippi Development Authority works with economic development professionals all across the state, works with our utilities, our community colleges, lots of partners, and existing business and industry is really what sets the tone for growing our economy. Over 75% of our wins this past year came from business and industry that's already here. And those will be leaders that will be in this room here at the Capital Day, Mississippi Economic Council's Capital Day event in just a few minutes.
We took a survey of some almost 2,000 Mississippi businesses that we have on our website that are registered with the state. And we asked them what's most important, and it was a runaway favorite, educated workforce. And the second one was community service, people that want my factory there, that want my business there. Those two led the survey completely, and not even in the top 10 was tax incentives. So we talked a little bit about the fact that our students no longer we've raised our high school graduation rate to almost 82%. A lot of hard work by teachers and students and the governor, but now it's apparent to me that we're going to have a 13th and a 14th year of schooling. Our technical training will be the educated workforce. And over half the jobs in Mississippi now require more than a high school education. And that number will increase exponentially, I think, in the future. Everybody says that. It's already happening in Mississippi. So we just wanted to reinforce the educated workforce, and then remember that education doesn't work in a silo. These people that are sitting in those chairs need to get involved in education. That's where their workforce is. That's the people who will be working for them. That's the people who will be hiring their children. They need to be involved in this. So we're encouraging our MEC members not to just say, I want an educated workforce, but become involved with our community college system, the three of those together, to really produce what is 80% of the workforce.
The outlook for jobs and for a growing economy in Mississippi is extremely bright. We're bullish. Coming off 2017, Governor Bryant became the first governor in the history of the state of Mississippi to hold up the golden shovel. The gold shovel is the ultimate award for economic development success around the country. 5 states each year awarded a golden shovel. Mississippi in 2017 became one of those. And it's no secret that we have the lowest unemployment, 4.8%, in Mississippi history. And that's driven by the fact that our high school graduation rates are going up. Our community colleges are doing a great job in workforce training. The Mississippi Works Fund is actually bearing fruit. We now have furniture academies. We have 2 coding academies in the state of Mississippi. And it's just a relationship between organizations like the Mississippi Economic Council doing a terrific job setting the table with good policy and legislation that enables Mississippi's economy to grow.
It is now my honor to introduce our governor, Phil Bryant. From the day he was elected, he put economic development at the forefront of what he had to do. Through his Mississippi Works program, he began to focus on finding additional dollars for workforce development. He began to identify jobs, areas that really we needed to focus on to make sure our state had an opportunity to grow economically. He has made this his passion. As a result, we are starting to see a change in the way Mississippi educates our students and the opportunities that exist for them. As Secretary Holzman mentioned, our graduation rates are improving, our reading scores are improving, but more importantly, the opportunities are improving thanks to the hard work of our governor. Please join me in welcoming Governor Phil Bryant.
Ready to go to the Capitol. Yeah, I've been there a little bit this week. It's getting exciting already. It's so good to know that Scott Waller now has a full-time job. That's one less guy I've got to worry about. You know, I love going around the nation now and speaking. I'm on the executive committee of the Republican Governors Association. I chair the Southern Energy Board of the state for all of our states in the Southeast. We helped form a little organization called the Royal Commonwealth Society. I know that sounds strange, but we've got friends in Great Britain, and once Brexit takes place, they're going to start looking towards the United States for all of the support that they've been getting out of Europe, and what they think is now their trading partner is going to be us. So I thought we better get over there and try to find out what we're doing. And each time I get a chance to travel, whether it's there in England when I spoke to the Royal Commonwealth Society just a few weeks ago, or when I speak to the oil and gas manufacturers and producers around this country, I'm proud to be able to say that I'm the governor of the state of Mississippi now, where we have the lowest unemployment and the highest graduation rate ever in the state of Mississippi. Now think about that. Years ago, and I would go and listen to these great governors who would say, and our unemployment rate is dropping. Mine was about 9.4% when I came into office. In November, it was 4.8%. The lowest it's been, the lowest unemployment has ever been in Mississippi's history since we've been taking measurements of recording people to go to work or who's not working since 1979. That's over 60,000 more people that have jobs. Now, that's pretty exciting. I call that a good start. Because we have now 40,000. I just looked at the Mississippi Works app. If you don't have it, you can go and find it. I just looked at my Mississippi Works app. We've got 40,000 job openings in the state. So we used to have people looking for jobs, and now we have jobs chasing people. Now, everyone's working on this. I remember 14 years ago when Governor Barber came into office, he asked me to help make sure that we consolidate those organizations that were in charge of putting people to work that helped with that plan. We created the SWIB board, State Workforce Investment Board, and we thought this is a great idea because there were about 3 different organizations at that time. We wanted to consolidate it and said there's one group of people run by business, managed by business, supported by the government that will then go out and identify what our targeted industries are and how we go about finding people to do that. 14 years later, you just heard the Secretary of State, what's the number one interest of businesses? Educated workforce. So what happened in those 14 years? Did we just not do our job? Did the SWIB board not prepare everyone? Of course they did. They prepared us well enough to put 60,000 more Mississippians to work. They helped create a community college system that's one of the top community colleges systems in the nation. Let me tell you, from a blue-collar world, many of us would have never been able to go to college, never have found a good job if it were not for a community college. When I started at Hines Community College, it was a dream of a lifetime. I didn't have a vehicle that could make it to university. Literally, I couldn't drive that far. I'm not sure I could have found Oxford in 1975. But I found Hines Community College. It's helped make all the difference. And all the community colleges representatives that are here today, that's your incubator for workforce into the future. And thanks to you, thanks to MEC, we're using the Mississippi Work Funds to help incentivize that. We'll spend nearly $50 million that we won't take out of the general fund. We won't have to go to the legislature and say, give us more money for workforce training, because we had so much money in our unemployment reserve account. Why? 60,000 people went to work. Many of them got off unemployment. So the money that you were paying in your unemployment insurance premiums went into that workforce account. We rebated part of you by reducing your insurance premium. I love to be able to go and tell companies that are coming to the state. We had 30 different announcements last year. 30 different announcements of companies that expanded. About 76% of those were existing businesses. So a lot of times people will come up to me, and we've got a new company coming in, and they'll say, you know, I just wish y'all would help existing businesses. 76% of the support that we got last year and announcements we made, existing businesses. I'd much rather take a company that is here, that is a corporate neighbor, part of the Mississippi family, and see them enlarge and grow, than I would go around the world and find another company. And I love those guys. William was just up here a little while ago. William, congratulations on leading MEC. What an honor that must be. He could have been governor, but he decided to do this. It's more fun. But I'd much rather find a company like Milwaukee Tools. I love Milwaukee Tools. I'm a tool guy, always have been. My dad was a mechanic. And they make the best power tools in the world. They just added another 660 jobs. Now think about that. They come into the state of Mississippi. They got 14 team members here with Milwaukee Tools, and they say we're going to add another 660. 60 of them here in the plant in Jackson. Another 300 in Greenwood, Mississippi, where they now have a plant with about 600 employees there. They're going to add 300 to that plant in the Mississippi Delta. This is advanced manufacturing. These are not simple processes. 300 more in Olive Branch, Mississippi in their warehouse. I believe, and if I'm not right, this is not correct, it ought to be, I believe Milwaukee Tools has more employees in Mississippi than they do in Milwaukee. It's a good start. We've got a lot of work to do. For the last 3 years, I've chaired Jobs for American Graduates. It's a program that was started about 30 years ago. We go into schools and we find those children that are at risk. We ask the principal and teachers, which child do you think is going to drop out? They know. They can tell you immediately. They'll say, we think this young man's not going to make it. He hasn't been coming to school. He's been failing. We say, great, let him come to a JAG class. Jobs for Mississippi Graduates, as we call here. We're in about 60 different schools. Yeah, thank you, JAG. About 95% of the time, that at-risk student graduates from high school. Almost 80% of the time, they go to work or on to higher education. 95% of the time. We spent about $3.5 million with JAG last year. $800,000 of that came from the general fund. $800,000. It is the only dropout prevention program in the state of Mississippi. I just rolled off of that national board, thank goodness. 3 years of JAG will work you out. We served over 1 million children. I was proud to represent not only the state of Mississippi, but the entire nation. When I met with the President of the United States and said, Mr. President, you want to make sure that we get more children in high school that are prepared to go to work or prepared to go into IHL or workforce training programs, go to JAG. Now, I tell you that because if we really want to solve some of those problems that the Secretary of State's talking about, we ought to put more revenue into Jobs for Mississippi Graduates. Right now, our graduates, as you heard, 82% of them are graduating from high school, the highest ever in Mississippi's history. Y'all read about that, didn't you? Saw it flashed across the front page. That's okay. Doesn't bother me. What bothers me is the rest of them that are not graduating. They're not going to find a job. They're not going to live the American dream. They ought to be able to do so right here in Mississippi. and go into one of our great community colleges and learn to come out of there and manufacture Toyotas and Nissans and Yokohama tires, go to work for Continental. That will be the most sophisticated tire plant ever built. So the idea that we got these low wages and difficult jobs that no one else will do, that's not true. It's all about robotics and computers. So we must train our workforce of the future how to come into an aerospace industry like Northrop Grumman, which is expanding again, adding 60 more jobs there. And how do they make UAVs? How do we make sure that we're working with GE and manufacturing those jet engines? How do we make sure that the medical industry is an economic driver in Mississippi? Y'all may have noticed we opened a new medical school in Mississippi at the University of Mississippi, the first one since 1955. I was born in 1954, so you know how old that school was. Now, we'll be able to graduate about 150 doctors there. Healthcare is an economic driver in Mississippi, creating tremendous jobs with high pay and good salaries. So as we look at what our priorities are this year in the legislature, we're going to talk more about workforce training. We're going to talk more about how we can increase the number of students that are graduating from high school. I was just talking to Sean. I'm so glad he is on the Board of Education for the state of Mississippi. Thank you, Sean, for serving your state and being on our great Board of Education. But we've got to do more. 14 years ago, Governor Barber talked about those boys in shop. Y'all remember that talk, don't you? You know, he used to say, well, that was the boys that smoked. Yeah, I get it. He's old. You know, the guys that were kind of, you know, they were out there, maybe they rode a motorcycle, and they'd say, what are you doing? I'm going to shop. A lot of them became the mechanics of the future. A lot of them started their own business. A lot of them are very successful now because they learned how to complete those tasks and build that product and get it to market and work day and night to make sure they grow their business. The soft skills that we're missing. I just read a report not long ago from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. You know where many of those soft skills that employers are looking for? They come between about 6 months and 4 years of age. That's where we learn conflict resolution. You know, your mom would tell you, I had 2 older brothers, so there was a lot of conflict resolution going on in my house. My dad was an expert at it. But literally, you learn conflict resolution from dealing with people, with your siblings and in your parents. If you were in a good daycare system, like both of my children were at St. Dominic's Hospital, the nuns help you find that out. So we've got about 96% of our children just now in some child care facility in Mississippi and across the United States. We're working hard to make sure we put a learning component there. So they have the language skills, they have the conflict resolution, they know how to work with others to accomplish a targeted goal. You cannot put 95% of your children from 6 months to 4 years of age into a daycare and not have a learning component and expect them to come out and be ready for kindergarten. Read the report. It's a generational loss, I believe is what it's called by the United States Chamber of Commerce. So we are beginning early learning there in daycare so that these children can come out and pass their 3rd grade reading exam. When I came into office, only about 58% of them were passing that test. Last test that was given, 92% of the 3rd graders passed their 3rd grade reading test in 6 years. We're making tremendous progress. Now, we've got a lot more to do. I've got 2 years left, and I can assure you it's going to be very aggressive. We're not going to slow down. We're not going to stop. We're not going to say enough is enough. There are too many things that we need to do. We have a good educational system. We have a good workforce. We have a good state, but we've got to go to great. I just read the book again, Good to Great. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to go good to great. Now, the old idea that we're behind in everything, and every time the media finds a report that says we're last or we're the worst at something, it's across the front pages. You know, collective thinking can make a difference between going from good to great. If I came into the Alabama football team, Alabama, and I walked in every day and I was a coach and I said, guys, there's no way we can win this game. Got too many people hurt. You know, the quarterback's just way too slow, his arms wore out, but y'all go out there and give it the best you can. Will they be playing for the national championship? I don't think so. So we've got to have a positive attitude. We've got to believe that we can go from good to great. We've got to believe that we can have a great infrastructure system. There's tough decisions the legislature's got to make. We've got deficits that we've got to take care of first. Medicaid, $41 million deficit. $41 million. So those of you that may know people or have relatives that are in extended care homes that Medicaid is helping support, we've got to assure sustainability for Medicaid into the future. So we are working hard to make sure that we have preventative health care. You know, if I can get Medicaid recipients to be responsible for their own health care, to start realizing, you know, I've got to work at this. It just doesn't happen to be a healthy Mississippian. We could save hundreds of millions of dollars and wouldn't have a deficit. Mental health, got additional challenges there. If some say that we're not fully funding public education, we need to be able to support that as much as we can to get that educated workforce. I just tell you this to know that the challenges that the Mississippi legislature has now are large and daunting. So as we go in and we say, well, we've got an idea, we'd like for you to raise taxes and generate another $300 million. That's a 25% increase in MDOT's budget. Take out state aid road funds, it's a 25% increase. Most state agencies are looking at reductions. Now, we need to do a better job of generating revenue. I've cut taxes 50 different times since I've been governor. I'm leading the SEC in cutting taxes. I like that. But there's a generation of revenue component that must be there, and we've got to explore those opportunities. And I think, in fact, they certainly will. I'm very happy to see that our Congress and the United States Senate joined with the President in passing the largest tax cut in the United States history. If you're not excited about that, you ought to be. You need to look at your corporate interest rates. I can tell you how good it is. In December, we brought in another $22 million of tax payments because I believe people were trying to get in under the wire. Yeah, so it's an anomaly, they say. I said, don't worry, we'll spend anomalies as well as general revenue. $22 million will be coming in. You're going to see this 3% growth on an annual level. That will come to the state of Mississippi as we continue to grow. As you see our unemployment rates going even lower as more people are going to work, but to keep up with that, we've got to stop and sharpen our axe. We've got to have more workforce prepared to take those jobs that are being created every day by companies that are rushing to Mississippi. Not a day that passes. Yesterday I met with an existing company here. They're expanding again. They said, we need to get our building up. I said, oh, okay, great. This is January. I think I can get you some support from the legislature to help incentivize. And look, people that don't like incentivizing companies, look, when those other people stop doing it, I will. When Alabama and Tennessee and all the rest of the nation stop incentivizing companies to come to their state, I'll stop. But until then, we all in. It is the new normal of how you get industry to come to the state of Mississippi, and I'm not going to slow down. But we've got to make sure that when they get here, they've got an educated workforce. So that's back to JAG. It's back to our community colleges. It's back to our daycare centers, starting that early in life. It's back to an attitude to where, as President Ronald Reagan said, the best social program is a job. Now, that's a social program I've been trying to expand ever since I was here the first day. A good job. MEC, you have been the biggest and best part of that. People in this room know how to go from good to great, or you wouldn't be here. They know that we struggle. There are ups and downs. You know that every now and then you have to make a tough decision and make an investment that perhaps others around you are a little hesitant to do, to grow your business. You don't get there by being timid. So we've got to confront the bold facts. We've got to make tough decisions. And we've got to measure our outcomes. What are we doing? Are we really being successful? And we've got to learn to work together. Now, I appreciate a political dynamic. I've taken advantage of it a couple of times in my life. But if we are to go from good to great, we must have an effort to work together on both sides of the political aisles with all of those in the legislature, our national delegation and the President of the United States and all of his cabinet members, and we have the stars in a line to be able to do that. With MEC's help, I think you're going to see a state, the great state of Mississippi, in fact, go from being good to great. Thank y'all for being here today, and God bless you.
Any business, any individual is open. MEC is a private nonprofit. We're supported solely by our business and members funding us to do this. We do not take any government dollars. The reason it's important for you to be involved is, number one, the connections that you make. Today is a perfect example. You get an opportunity to be part of this event at the Capitol, meet with state legislators, meet with other business leaders across the state, make the connections that's going to help you be successful in your business. Secondly, it is a support of what we're trying to do in an overall effort in Mississippi to grow our state's economy, to improve our workforce, and create opportunities to really make a difference going forward.
MEC is the voice of business, and if, you know, we're a big part of the state, the private sector is a big part of the state, the economy, and MEC is making sure that we continue to promote our existing businesses so they can grow, attract new businesses, and then again, create a better quality of life for our citizens because there are more jobs available.
Your reaction to everything that you've seen and heard here today during Capitol Day?
Well, it's a great opportunity for our private sector leaders to come together to hear from our public leaders what the legislative agenda is going to be, and then also to give our input back as to these are things that are important that we would like to be addressed. And so it's a real productive collaboration where we can come together and try to move Mississippi forward as a group.
It's just a fun opportunity for people to really get together and deal with issues that we have to deal with as, a leading organization representing businesses all across Mississippi.
If people have questions, like more information, what should they do?
You simply go to mec.ms. Doesn't get any simpler than that, mec.ms.